It's just going to be a case of which nation collapses first, and then they're all probably going to fall like dominoes, because that's all it's about. It's just about distracting you so you don't realize that they are robbing you fucking blind. The West is absolutely collapsing, and you know what? It feels coordinated, doesn't it? And that's because it probably is. In fact, when you look at the main things that have collapsed empires and have collapsed countries and economies over the past centuries, you will find out that it is rising wealth inequality that collapses countries and economies. And the thing that you notice about most Western countries is they are having a big problem with rising wealth inequality. Now, what happens is basically you have the middle class who are being hollowed out. And as a result of this, they are getting more pissed off and they are getting more angry. And that leads to a destabilization of society. And unless the path is changed, then that is not going to change. Because when you really think about the trajectory of Western countries, it is only getting worse. So, you know, a lot of people, they like to cling to their politicians. It doesn't matter whether you're in Canada or whether you're in the UK or the United States. And these populist leaders, they get elected, and guess what? Nothing fucking changes. Isn't it marvelous? Isn't it brilliant? Like, why does that happen? And it's because they are all part of this elite class. They no longer represent the middle class. They no longer represent you. And because of that, what that means is they're actually representing the other side of the equation. It's like asking an arsonist to go and put out a fire that they started on your house. I mean, that is how fucking ridiculous it is. And this is what people are asking of these politicians. And it's so stupid. But not all nations around the world are suffering from the same fate. Like I said, Western nations mainly are the countries that are collapsing right now. And it is absolutely hilarious because I don't get it. People just don't zoom out. They want to look inside their own country. I get it. They're concerned about their own country. They're patriotic, whatever you want to call it. But the problem is when you don't look on a wider scale, you don't realize that all these fucking things are happening absolutely everywhere in the West. So then you've got to think, well, hold on a second. If we're changing politicians in different countries all the time and nothing ever changes, why is that? And it's because, like I said, they're part of the elite. They don't represent you anymore, and that is why you're actually seeing the opposite. So what actually people need is wealth inequality to come back, but actually what they're getting is the complete opposite, and that's because you're electing elites to your power structures. And the problem is you've also got power structures and money influences everywhere, and these politicians, they get bought like chess pieces on a chessboard, and it's just really unfortunate. I don't even see a solution because I'm not even sure how you can change the trajectory when you're on this path. Because when you look throughout human history, you've had empires and countries that have risen and have fell. And when you look into what has happened, it won't be the only cause, but a major cause is always massive civil unrest. And the civil unrest usually stems from the fact that inequality has gotten so bad and people are so angry and sick and tired. And the only question that people have to ask who live in the West is, when is it going to happen? Because is it going to happen in the United States first, or is it going to happen in France, or is it going to happen in Canada? Which country will first head into a civil war or something like that? You already saw back in 2022 the Freedom Convoy, and then that spread like wildfire. It spread to places in Europe. It started happening in the United States, and you've seen large-scale civil unrest all over the West since then. And you have to ask the question, well, why is it happening everywhere? If we are actually getting change when we elect politicians to represent us, then why why does the trajectory and the overall standard of living just go down and down and down? And unfortunately, once again, you flip back to that rising wealth inequality that has been happening across the West. And in some countries are growing, wealth inequality is actually on its way down, but in other countries, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And as the rich and the elite get more disconnected with the average people, so will the political classes. They won't know what to do. They keep making promises that they're going to do this and do that, and it's going to make things better, and it never ever happens. And once again, I go back to my original point. That's because they're bought and paid for, and that's because you think you elect them to represent you, but really they're there to represent the elites. They're there to represent themselves, and they don't give a shit because these people are so corrupt. They're making so much money off the Cantillon effect that it's just absolutely mind-boggling to most people. And then you get some people who are totally in denial and who believe that nothing wrong is happening, my government isn't corrupt, and those people are like borderline retarded. Because when you really think about what's going on, you see these scandals all the time. And I will give credit to Donald Trump in one thing. He's exposed a lot of the fraud and corruption going on within the US government, and he's just replaced it with his own. I mean, it's absolutely marvelous, isn't it? You get one flavor of corruption and then it gets replaced with another. And this is why, you know, people who are clinging all their hope to politicians, I really think it's not going to happen. In order to resolve this, what you would actually need is a coordinated effort from Western nations in order to combat this. But instead, you're getting the opposite of that. You're getting a coordinated effort by Western nations not to combat this and to actually distract you from it. Because that's all it's about. It's just about distracting you so you don't realize that they are robbing you blind. And that's really what's happening. And people have to make a decision in their life. Do they want to suffer in that, or do they want to build a life for them and their families in another place? Because in reality, people need to have a plan and they need to be thinking about the future. And like I said, it's just going to be a case of which nation collapses first, and then they're all probably going to fall like dominoes, with the rich and the elites moving to avoid it all, because they have all the money, and money is power, unfortunately. And that's why it is being hoarded so much by these elites, because they don't want you to have any power. So we'll continue to see this happen over the next decade, and it's not just going to miraculously turn around, because until people realize that they are being robbed blind by these elites and by these politicians, nothing is going to change. And it's a sad situation, because these once great nations are failing, and even my country, the UK, is a total wreck now. And then I moved to Canada, which was slightly better, and now that country is turning into a total wreck. And that's why my perspective is a little different to most people, because when I lived in Canada, I'd already seen this song before. I knew exactly what was happening, and I was seeing the same thing happen there. And that's why I found it so hilarious when people would say, yes, we'll vote in this party and that will change things. And I'm like, look around you. Look at other countries. Is that really working? I mean, Donald Trump is pretty extreme, some people would argue. Is that working? No, it's not. Because again, these people who are perceived to represent the middle class, they don't. And that's the problem. Rule number one of politics is that you have to be corrupt in order to get into the game. That's why I'll never be in politics. And you know, I think it's crazy and really naive to sit there and think, oh yeah, things are going to get better. Just this time when this politician gets in, things are going to get better. He might say some things that you agree with more, and he might do some things that you agree with more. But again, the overall standard of living that you have will continue to decline if you remain in that country. That's just my opinion, but that's the way it fucking is. Check out my website in the description below, escapefolio.com, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.